Before flags waved, before the word Philippines was even spoken, there was a man who stood on the shore with no crown, no army, no armor, but still, he stood. He did not ask to be a hero. He did not write books or speeches. But in the silence of that morning, as foreign ships approached, Lapu Lapu made a decision that would echo across centuries. He would not bow. He was not just a chieftain. He was not just a warrior. He was the storm that reminded the world. The islands were never empty. They had names, they had people, and they had defenders. This is the story of Lapu Lapu, the man who made resistance a legacy. Long before the Spaniards arrived, the island of Mactan was alive with trade, culture, and community. Lapu Lapu was not born in silence. He was born into a land of rhythm, the beat of drums, the flow of barter, the songs of the sea. He was a datu, a leader, not of serfs, but of warriors. And his people, Visayans, were known far and wide for their maritime strength, their tattoos, their courage. The West would later call them pintados or the painted ones. But these tattoos weren't for decoration. They were for victory, each line earned, each mark, a memory. Lapu Lapu was forged in that world, and he would not trade it for anyone's cross, coin, or crown. When Ferdinand Magellan landed in 1521, he did not arrive empty-handed. He came with banners, with priests, with muskets, but more than that, he came with expectation that the archipelago would bow to a distant king and kneel before a new god. Many did. Raja Humabon of Cebu welcomed him. Tributes were exchanged, conversions were made, but not Lapu Lapu. He watched from across the water and made it plain. I owe no allegiance to Spain. I am not your subject. To the Spanish mind, this was treason. To Lapu Lapu, it was honor. The night before the battle, Mactan was not full of fear. There was preparation, torches flickered, children were sent inland, elders whispered prayers to Bathala. And Lapu Lapu? He didn't rally with speeches. He moved through his village, touching shoulders, locking eyes, letting his warriors know, we fight for home. Not conquest. He knew they were outnumbered. He knew they had no cannons, no steel armor. But they had the land, the water, and each other. At sunrise on April 27, 1521, the Spanish came ashore. Magellan, armored and proud, expected submission. Instead, he met the tide, and a man who refused to kneel. The battle was brutal, close. Spanish muskets failed in the shallow waters. Their armor slowed them in the surf. Meanwhile, Lapu Lapu's warriors moved swift and bare, knowing every stone, every wave. Magellan was struck in the leg, then the arm, and finally, surrounded. Lapu Lapu's men ended the myth that Europe could never fall. Magellan died not in glory, but in confusion. Not a martyr, just a man who underestimated an island. And then, silence. After Magellan's death, the Spanish retreated. They never captured Lapu Lapu. He was not converted. He was not colonized. But the strange thing is, he disappears from the records. Did he grow old in peace? Did he die in another fight? We may never know, because history is not always written by the victors. And in this case, the victors were brown, barefoot, and unyielding. Lapu Lapu is not just a statue in Rizal Park, not just a face on a coin. He is a spirit of defiance and a mirror. In him, Filipinos see the roots of resistance. In him, every oppressed people sees the first fire that says, no. No, you cannot have my name. No, you cannot take my land. No, you cannot erase my culture. In a world that often rewards surrender, Lapu Lapu is a reminder. Sometimes peace begins with refusal. Lapu Lapu's greatness did not come from wealth, or power, or empire. It came from a single act. He chose to stand when others bowed. That choice, simple and final, made him immortal. Because courage is not the absence of fear, it is the presence of purpose. We may never need to wield a kampalon, but we can still fight. For truth, for dignity, for the right to define our own story. And if you ever forget that strength, look to the sunrise, to the sea, to the barefoot warrior who reminds the world, we were never conquered in spirit.